Welcome to the presentation of Economic Analyst, Bethel University, Managerial Economics. This presentation will be presented by Corey Boyd, Hannah Chapman, Cherie Helms, and Michael Johnson. Our agenda will consist of company information, data and information, relevant economics metrics, microeconomics data and indicators, comparison and other organizations, ethical, legal, and controversial issues. Company information. NASA's leadership consists of Administrator Bill Nelson, sworn in May 3rd, 2021, Deputy Administrator Pam Mallory, sworn in June 21st, 2021, Associate Administrator Robert D. Cabana, and Chief Economics Alex McDonald. NASA's workforce consists of 18,000 civil servants, U.S. contractors, international contractors, and commercial partners. You can visit NASA centers in Kennedy Space Center, Houston Space Center, Alabama U.S. Rocket Center, Great Lakes, Ohio Center, just to name a few.
Thank you, Cherie. I'm Corey Boyd, and I will be covering our data and information section. In this first slide, I want to do a surface dive into the Freedom of Information Act, also known as FOIA. This policy was established in 1966, and the bill was officially established and signed in 1967. The reason for this being put into place was to provide the public with the opportunity to access information from federal agencies to better understand the everyday happenings of the government. Now, the information that is exempt from being posted would be law enforcement information, information that could pose a threat to our national security and personal privacy information. All information and records must be requested through the Office of Information Policy. FOIA has partnered with NASA to ensure that the public is receiving the right information around the space program and its happenings. NASA has set out since legislation was introduced to make sure that not only the public but institutions of higher learning, medical institutions, and additional space agencies who are seeking to expand on their exploration programs have access to that. And so all of the records requested are released free of charge, unless there are a large number of documents that need to be printed, thus leading to an hourly charge. In this next slide, I will speak on the importance of the data and information policy. This is important for other agencies to know that NASA is committed to improving the quality of living by providing documentation that can contribute to the advancement of research. NASA has acknowledged that this is a significant investment and will contribute to long-term research opportunities for the advancement of Earth. The goal of this policy is to ensure that the public and agencies seeking information have access as soon as the event or mission has concluded. And so what is the importance, once again, of this NASA data being available? NASA data is accessible for medical, academic, general public uses to aid in helping innovation and addressing questions about Earth. And so what does NASA consider to be its data products? So NASA considers scientific data, scientific computer database, scientific software, and information system software. And so what steps has NASA taken to protect its data? NASA has gone through major steps to make sure that data is protected, and some of the steps include tracking user names, maintaining logs of user systems used to access sites, and they've also partnered with Google to track information. So anytime you come onto a data site and do just a brief search, they have tracked all of your information at that point, just to make sure they understand and know who is currently frequenting their site. And so, once again, I want to highlight what are the benefits of NASA data. Scientists are able to use NASA data for medical breakthroughs. The International Space Station benefits from the sharing of data as it fosters collaborations with various international space agencies. So that is definitely important. So in 2006, NASA established the Rights in Data Cooperative Agreement. The cooperative agreement is a highly specialized research award where the federal staff and non-federal award recipient will be conducting the research together in some way. The objective of this agreement is to protect the right of data that includes trade secrets, commercial, or financial information, and information that is confidential in nature. In this case, the data products that NASA is referring to consist of, once again, scientific data, scientific software, or software that is used to gather data, such as satellite imagery or aircraft technology. Lastly, information system software or software that is produced and used to access or manipulate or analyze scientific data information. I want to highlight that NASA expends approximately $1.3 billion a year to fund grants and cooperative agreements, also known as CAs. NASA issues approximately 2,500 new grants and CAs each year and manages approximately 9,000 open rewards. As a segue into our relevant economics metrics, I want to highlight that there are currently 13 Minnesota state entities receiving grant support from NASA. Established by Congress in 1988, this NASA space grant provides higher education support for these schools in the state of Minnesota to support STEM programs. This grant is not only designed to support students in higher education, but also provides for K through 12 STEM programs. The University of Minnesota has received more than $6 million in funding from NASA support. And Bethel University has been a beneficiary of this program that helps support students who are conducting research, higher education work in physics, engineering, and additional NASA objectives. Now I'll pass it on to Michael to further expound on our relevant economics metrics information.
The next section of our presentation will be the discussion on the relevant economic metrics of NASA. My name is Michael Johnson, and I will be discussing the financial impacts of the organization in the United States. The impact of NASA truly is national. They have employment in all 50 states. We're going to look at the economic benefits to the state and local governments via the contracts of their goods and services. And lastly, we're going to review the economic benefit to state and local governments via the tax revenue produced. When you think of an organization like NASA and the importance that they have in the United States, you're going to want your employees to have a high intellect. You're going to want them to be creative. You want them to be people who want to explore the world and to figure out issues and problems. NASA is funded 100%, nearly 100% by the national government. And so it is a very strategic entity by our country. If we look at the employment of these individuals, you can see that NASA has over 17,000 full-time equivalent jobs in the United States. They have $3.2 billion of annual wages, which is $180,000 per full-time equivalent position. That's a significant pay for an average of your employment base. The total employment sustained by NASA across the United States is estimated to be 339,000 jobs. NASA supports labor income in the amount of $25.7 billion per year. And for every full-time equivalent job that's located at a NASA facility, an additional 18 jobs are supported through the U.S. economy. In addition to labor, NASA subcontracts $21.2 billion of activity. They have $61 million of purchasing card spending in the United States. All of the activities of NASA affect the U.S. supply chain. Finally, NASA generates an estimated $7.7 billion in federal, state, and local tax revenues through the U.S. annually. This image gives us an idea of the impact of NASA on an individual state. You can see that all of the funding, or nearly all of the funding, comes from the U.S. government. NASA has direct impact of spending in a state via payroll, as well as the procurement of goods and services. That affects the state economy. It changes and it increases the demand for goods and services. The past few slides, we've been looking at the impact of NASA on the national economy. As we look at their balance sheet, you can see that they have a large fund balance that they have at their disposal to be able to spend. Their property, plant, and equipment is at $7.6 billion. And if we were to pause and think about the NFL and the 32 teams that exist within that entity, collectively, the value of all the stadiums that they have to utilize to generate their revenue collectively has got to be at least $30 billion. So when we look at NASA as a government entity and we see that they have $7.6 billion of general property, plant, and equipment, it's really not that much. Their focus isn't on having to put money into property, plant, and equipment. They have their resource. They have the money. It's coming from the federal government. And they're going to spend it. They're going to spend it on innovation. They're going to spend it on looking at climate change. They're going to distribute those funds to try to get the biggest impact that they can using the government's funds that's been given to them. NASA allocates its operating costs into 4 strategic goals. The first is the expansion of human knowledge through scientific discoveries. That's $8.5 billion of funds. The second goal is the extension of human presence to the moon and to Mars. That's $9.8 billion. The third goal is just to be a catalyst for economic growth and to drive innovation as a part of our national challenges. The fourth goal is to enhance capabilities and operations to catalyst current and future mission success. It's quite interesting that these 4 goals all are very different, but yet all incorporate scientific discovery. It's important to be progressive, to continue to find innovation, and NASA is a catalyst for the United States government. NASA's impact on Minnesota is not as substantial as other states. However, we still have 273 jobs that are supported with an economic output of over $50 million.
Thanks, Michael. I will now cover the macroeconomic data and its associated indicators. Regarding benefits stemming from space exploration, there are 2 categories. The first being direct benefits. There are some key benefits of NASA's space exploration, whether it would be inspiring people, generating scientific knowledge, investing new technologies, or strengthening partnerships both domestically and internationally. NASA's space exploration is an imperative piece of the United States economy. Some indirect benefits of space exploration include economic prosperity, environmental improvements, human experience being expanded, and the general understanding of just how small we are in comparison to our universe. These benefits are crucial aspects of what space exploration is. From here, I will dive further into the key benefits mentioned here. NASA ensures inventions for space find practical uses closer to home. They often become solutions to different challenges, ones that we didn't set out to solve. These are often called NASA spin-offs. For example, we have some where they help detect breast cancer, protect firefighters, nourish newborns, and more. The International Space Station has led to many spin-offs and facilitated numerous technology and scientific advancements. Research in space has helped improve health on Earth, from really understanding bone loss to developing vaccines to improving eye surgery and more. Using the space station and NASA satellites, we study Earth from space. NASA data helps predict the weather, monitor natural disasters such as hurricanes and wildfires, and really study long-term climate trends. More nations are active in space than ever before, and international partnerships are key to humanity's continued achievements in space. For more than 20 years, humans have continuously lived and worked 250 miles above Earth aboard our space station. It is the largest peacetime multinational effort in history, representing 15 nations and 5 space agencies. As NASA returns to the moon, the Artemis Accord serves as a set of guiding principles for international cooperation in the next phase of human space exploration. Investment in the Apollo moon exploration program in the 1960s correlates with the level of technical education later attained by students, suggesting that the program's high public profile and dramatic achievements had a widespread influence on the level of U.S. technical education. Additionally, a 2009 survey found that 50% of internationally renowned scientists who published in the prestigious journal Nature during the previous 3 years had been inspired by Apollo to become scientists. 89% of the respondents also agreed that human spaceflight inspires younger generations to study science. Out of the lessons from Apollo is that having a visible space exploration program is important in encouraging young people to pursue science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, otherwise known as STEM fields. Such a program will also send a message to students so they can have the possibility of long-term exciting careers in science and technology. Today, many space exploration missions include components designed to stimulate young people's interest in STEM. More than 2 million teachers and 43 million students from 49 countries have participated in student experiments and activities associated with ISS, also known as the International Space Station. In some cases, scientists enlisted the help of students to conduct their investigations aboard the ISS, and in other cases, students designed space experiments themselves. So, for example, a program inviting students to design scientific experiments for implementation on the ISS has attracted the interest of tens of thousands of young people. NASA's impact on younger generations has led to unbelievable discoveries and has greatly benefited the United States as well as our world. In terms of NASA's macroeconomic impact, space exploration leads to job creation and economic growth. Investment in space-based endeavors is becoming sufficiently attractive to private entrepreneurs. Space travel appears to really be the next big thing, and with support of the entrepreneurs, public interest will become more apparent. Technology spin-offs such as medical devices, transportation, telecommunication, etc. NASA's technologies have really led to scientific advancements in medical devices as well as other medical procedures. Educational workplace development, such as STEM programs, have led to great achievements for young minds in our nation. Tourism and public interest has been a direct benefit of NASA and its associated programs. For example, people from around the world will tour the facility in Florida. More recently, Mission to Mars and other missions have piqued the public's interest. Additionally, there are 2 key metrics I want to note. The total employment sustained by NASA across the U.S. is estimated to be approximately 350,000 jobs, and then NASA generates an estimated $7.7 billion in federal, state, and local tax revenues throughout the U.S. annually. I will now discuss the economic strategy to make buyers less responsive. Regarding an economic strategy to make buyers less price responsive, what comes to mind is the taxpayers. NASA is a vital organization that warrants continued funding from a non-employee standpoint due to the profound economic benefits it generates. While taxpayers may sometimes exhibit price sensitivity when it comes to funding governmental initiatives, investing in NASA yields numerous advantages that go beyond immediate financial considerations. While the cost of funding NASA may at times raise concerns about price responsiveness amongst taxpayers, the organization's long-term economic benefits far outweigh the immediate financial considerations. The overall economic strategy would be to involve transparent communication, demonstrating the tangible economic and societal benefits derived from the organization's funding, as well as implementing measures to optimize cost effectiveness and accountability.
Comparison with other organizations. About SpaceX. SpaceX is a private company under the direction of Elon Musk. SpaceX has 9,500 employees and grossed $2.0 billion in revenue in 2022. One of SpaceX's largest projects is a space system called Starship. Starship will be available to ferry people from Mars for permanent habitation. The civil space agencies include NASA, National Ocean and Aeronautics Administration, Federal Aviation, and Department of Energy. Department of Energy with the biggest budget being $48.2 billion in budget request. And what's the comparison to NASA? NASA is taxpayer funded. NASA reports to the executive branch and the president appoints the administrator. NASA's budget is through a political process. NASA's budget goes into the space division. Why the need for other organizations? Without the investment from NASA, SpaceX would not be founded. SpaceX is one of the first companies to receive money from NASA. In 2020, SpaceX became the first private company to send NASA's astronaut to ISS. NASA's support of SpaceX has reshaped the landscape of the aerospace industry. All of the companies depend on each other for critical information that ultimately improve resources. Department of Energy's budget includes the Space Division. Financial comparison. NASA has a budget this year in 2023 of $25 billion. Of the $25 billion, $175 million are for the launch. The science budget is up 5% to last year. The overall budget is up 8% to LY. The space exploration and technology is up 31% to last year. In comparison to NASA, 2023 estimate is $74 billion for SpaceX. $1.6 billion in revenue is for the launch this year. In SpaceLink, which is an internet service, has 1.5 million customers. And of those 1.5 million customers, they are paying approximately $120 a month for this subscription. Not to mention, they also have to put a down payment of $599. $900 million in subsidies from SpaceLink that SpaceX is receiving. Currently, right now, the Dragon costs $55 million compared to the space shuttle from NASA, which is $175 million. So when we look at this in comparison, not only can you see that SpaceX is producing more revenue that is also raised, but they are also more cost efficient when going into space. So this makes SpaceX more profitable, and it's also linking back to the reason why we need NASA and we need SpaceX together, because both of them offset each other.
Moving on to ethical, legal, and controversial issues. The first issue I want to highlight is the risk to the astronauts, whether it's exposure to various cancer-causing chemicals or the dangers of the journey. There are obvious ethical issues when sending human beings into space. The next would be remnants of machinery left in space leading to debris. At what cost does the U.S. government decide they won't explore space due to portions of the machinery never returning? Another prevalent issue I want to touch base is forward and backward contamination. Forward being transferring Earth-based microbes to outer space, and backwards being the opposite. This issue has been addressed in the Outer Space Treaty of 1967. So when it comes to civilian contest of space exploration, there are two main arguments against NASA and space exploration: misuse of public funding and wasted natural resources. While it may appear as if NASA is allocated copious amounts of money in their budget is really only 0.5% of total government expenditures. While natural limited resources should not be wasted on poor expeditions, the benefits of NASA's efforts certainly outweigh the cons.